11 years. Midwest corridors mostly, some southern routes in winter, occasionally the I-80 stretch across Nevada and Utah when the company needs someone who won't clock extra hours on the log and disappear into a rest stop for 6 hours. I know these roads the way you know a house you've lived in for a decade. I know where the pavement changes texture under the wheels. I know which way stations run all night and which ones go dark after 2 in the morning. I know the difference between a tired mind pulling shapes out of headlight scatter and something that is genuinely, deliberately there. I want to be clear about that before I tell you what happened last October. So I'm telling you up front, 11 years, 60,000 miles a year on average. I know what I saw. I was hauling refrigerated pharmaceuticals out of Salt Lake City. Sealed load, temperature monitored, tight delivery window to a distribution hub outside Des Moines. Standard enough work. I pulled out at 2:15 in the morning to beat the border traffic, and by the time I was deep into Utah's West Desert, the road behind me was black and empty as far as my mirrors reached. No towns out there. No turnoffs worth mentioning. Just the yellow stripe and the flat dark stretching in every direction like something erased. Mile marker 49 is where I first saw it, a set of high beams in my driver's side mirror. They appeared at a distance I estimated at roughly a quarter mile, and they stayed there. That's the thing that caught me. Not that they were there, but that they held exactly that distance. You get a feel for traffic patterns after enough years on the road. Somebody coming up behind a rig at night will either overtake or fall back. They adjust constantly, unconsciously. These lights didn't adjust. They moved when I moved, and that's not how people drive at 2:30 in the morning on an empty highway, unless they are paying very specific, deliberate attention to you. I tested it. Dropped my speed to 52 over about a mile and watched the mirror. The headlights slowed within 30 seconds. I brought it back up to 68. They matched me. I held 68 for 12 miles, and they held the quarter-mile gap without variation. I got on the CB, Channel 19, the standard. Asked if anyone had eyes on a silver refrigerated unit westbound near marker 49. 2 drivers came back to me within a few minutes, one running cattle out of Elko, one hauling auto parts somewhere east of Wendover. I described what I was seeing, the consistent gap, the way it matched my speed. Neither of them had seen anything sitting behind me. The Elko driver asked me to confirm my position twice. Then he said something I've turned over many times since. He said the road between Knowles and Wendover had been quiet for 2 solid hours, no westbound traffic at all. Said there was nothing moving out there. He sounded genuinely confused, not dismissive. That part stuck with me more than anything, but I could see it, clear in my mirror. Quarter mile back, high beams level and steady and patient. I pushed through to the Bonneville rest area and pulled in hard, leaving my running lights on and engine at idle. Kept both mirrors tight. The headlights slowed at the entrance road, paused at the junction for what felt like a full minute, then eased into the lot and parked at the far end, past the dog walk area, in the section where the overhead lights don't reach. Engine off. No interior light came on, no door opened. Just a dark shape, sitting 30 yards behind me at the unlit end of a desert rest stop at 3 in the morning. I sat in my cab for 41 minutes. I watched the clock, made myself eat half a sandwich, kept my eyes moving between mirrors. The vehicle did not move at any point. Nobody came out of it. When I finally pulled back onto the highway, the lights came on behind me in under 90 seconds and settled back into that familiar quarter-mile position like they had never stopped. I stayed on CB for the next 60 miles and kept talking, mentioning my route, mentioning my ETA, just wanting other drivers aware. Nobody else reported seeing it. At the Oasis stop in Tooele County, I pulled in, went inside, told the woman at the counter that something had been following me for the past hour, and asked if there was anyone I could call. She looked out at the lot and told me she didn't see anything unusual. I was back in my cab inside 4 minutes. When I looked at where those headlights had been sitting, the spot was empty. No vehicle pulling away. No taillights, just empty, cracked asphalt. My load arrived with the temperature log clean and the factory seal intact. The hub supervisor at Des Moines met me at the dock, cut the seal himself, swung the trailer doors. Then he stopped. Called me back and asked whether I had accessed the trailer at any point during the run. I told him no. Sealed load, never touched. He showed me the interior floor near the rear left wall. 2 parallel scuff marks in the insulated coating. Fresh marks, like something had been rested against the wall and then dragged toward the doors. The kind of marks you'd leave if you'd been inside and needed to move something out in a hurry. The factory seal on the doors had not been broken. The temperature log showed no door open events for the entire run. I have thought about that every week since October. I've tried to build an explanation, and it always falls apart somewhere in the middle. The first time it happened, I told myself it was coincidence. I want to be honest about that, because I think it matters. I was 4 days into a furniture delivery circuit through the Pacific Northwest. Solo run, no co-driver, route taking me through the back half of Oregon on 20 West, and then looping north on 97. It's emptier country than most people picture when they think of Oregon. Long stretches of high desert between small towns, the kind of driving where you build a subconscious catalog of what belongs and what doesn't. The same broken irrigation rig sitting in a dry field outside Brothers. The same cracked church marquee somewhere before Bend. You notice what changes and what doesn't. Night 2, I stopped at a truck stop outside Sisters. Small place, 4 pumps, a diner attached with a hand-painted specials board, 2 semis already pulled around back. Fluorescents out front buzzing with that particular frequency that gets into your back teeth after a long run. I went in, took a stool at the counter, ordered eggs and coffee, and did what you do on a long circuit, which is not much. Just eat and let your legs rest. There was a man at the far end of the counter. Mid-40s, I'd say. Dark jacket, practical hair. Nothing about him that would catch your eye in a normal situation. He was looking at his plate when I came in. What I noticed, and only half noticed at the time, was that when I settled onto the stool he stopped moving. Fork went still. Not frozen, not obvious. Just that small, quiet pause that means nothing until later when you're alone and you start pulling the night apart. I ate my food, paid, used the bathroom, did my walk around on the trailer. Through the diner window I could see him. He had rotated on his stool. He was facing the glass, watching the lot. When my eyes found his through the window, he looked back down at his plate. One smooth, unhurried motion. I left. 2 nights later I was north of Bend on 97, running lower on fuel than I liked, and the next major stop was 40 miles out. I pulled into a station I had never used before. Small, independent place, 2 pumps, narrow convenience room attached, the kind of place that stays open because the owner lives 20 feet away. I went in to pay. He was there. Same man, same dark jacket, seated at a small table near the front window with a coffee in front of him. Not eating, not on his phone, facing the lot. He had already turned toward the door by the time I stepped through it, like he had been watching and knew I was coming before the door moved. I stood there for a full few seconds. His expression didn't change at all. No recognition, no surprise, no adjustment. Just that patient, settled look of someone who had been waiting at that location for exactly as long as they expected to wait. I paid at the pump and did not go back inside. From the cab I called my dispatcher and asked about rerouting the back half of the circuit. He came back with an alternate through Madras, cut 40 minutes off the northern loop. I said yes. I said it on the company dispatch line. I didn't discuss it with anyone, didn't mention it out loud, didn't write it anywhere outside of that logged call. I took the Madras route, An hour and 40 minutes out, I needed to reset my log hours. There was a rest stop coming up, small gravel lot, single block building, dark pines along the back edge. I pulled in. One other vehicle in the lot. A dark blue sedan, engine off, parked near the tree line where the overhead light didn't reach. No glow inside. No movement of any kind. I sat in my cab for 14 minutes without getting out. Nothing moved in or around that sedan. I started my engine and pulled out onto the road. It followed me for about 40 seconds before a long curve took it from my mirror, and it didn't come back. I've run that 97 corridor 8 times since. Nothing. But the Madras reroute is the part I can't put down. That decision was made on a company dispatch channel at 2 in the morning. It wasn't publicly logged anywhere. It wasn't part of any pre-filed route documentation. Something was already parked at that rest stop when I arrived. I've gone back and forth on what that means. The most straightforward explanation is that someone was monitoring the company dispatch channel, which is not encrypted and never has been. That a reroute decision made at 2 in the morning could be heard by anyone with the right receiver, triangulated against the road options, and acted on in the time it takes to drive to a rest stop and park in the dark. That's the version I can almost rationalize. It doesn't help me sleep, but I can almost hold it together. The load was machine components, fabricated parts from a plant outside Youngstown to a receiving warehouse in central Pennsylvania. Low value, unrestricted, the kind of cargo where you confirm the weight certificate and don't give the load another thought. I was out before 11 and took 422 East instead of the Turnpike to save the toll on a flat-rate job. I've run that corridor maybe 60 times. I know the rough stretch outside Katanning where the road surface breaks up. I know the long downhill past Ford City where the right shoulder drops away. Nothing on that route has ever caused me to think twice. Around 1 in the morning, I rolled through a small borough I won't name. One main strip, closed hardware store, a church, a diner dark behind its windows, a BP station on the far corner still lit, and at the edge of the BP lot, not at the pumps, sitting on the concrete apron with its nose toward the road, was a dark-colored pickup. Engine running. Lights off. No one visible inside. Just parked there, aimed at the highway. You notice that at 1 in the morning, when the roads have been empty for a while. A running vehicle with no one in it facing traffic. I registered it and kept moving. 11 miles later, I came to a 4-way crossroads I've used more times than I can count. Grain elevator, 2 farm access tracks, stop signs on all 4 corners. I rolled through and my headlights swept the far shoulder. The pickup was parked there. On the gravel just past the stop line, nose angled slightly toward my lane, dark, matching the profile of what I'd seen at the BP station. Engine off now. No lights. Pointed in the direction I had been coming from. I can't tell you with certainty it was the same truck. I want to be precise about that. But the shape and color matched under my headlights, and its position was deliberate. Not a farm truck parked in a field access, not someone checking a phone. Placed at the shoulder of a crossroads at 1 in the morning, facing my approach, 11 miles ahead of where I'd last seen it. I kept my speed and went through. For the next 20 miles, I ran every mirror check I know how to run. Nothing visible behind me. But at the junction where I turned onto the county road toward my delivery warehouse, there was a vehicle sitting in the field access track on the right shoulder, nose toward the road. No lights. Engine status unknown. I passed it at 45 and didn't slow. The delivery was clean. Supervisor met me at the dock, ran his count, signed the log. While I was waiting for paperwork, he mentioned, the way you mentioned something already half forgotten, that someone had called the warehouse that afternoon asking about the delivery window for the Youngstown run. He assumed it was a routine check from the plant. He gave them my arrival window, 2 to 4 in the morning. He didn't recognize the voice. There was no record of the call in the system. He kept apologizing while the printer ran. Said it was probably nothing. A routine status check. Someone doing their due diligence. He folded the paperwork and slid it across the dock and told me he was sure it was fine. I didn't tell him about the pickup at the BP station or the crossroads. I didn't mention the vehicle in the field access track. I just took the paperwork and walked back to my cab and sat there with the engine off for a few minutes in the docklight. Somebody called that warehouse knowing the job, knowing the route category, knowing to ask about timing. And then 3 separate vehicles appeared at points along my exact path in the hours that followed. I can't connect those things into something that makes clean sense, but I also can't separate them. I took main roads home and didn't stop once until I was inside city limits. I don't run 422 at night anymore. I pay the turnpike toll every single time, and I do it without hesitating.